Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Aurelius Unhinged, where we talk about things pro audio, synthesizers, workstations. We talk about things that make absolutely zero sense in the industry, and simply put, if it's designed wrong and features are needlessly being omitted, it's discussed and corrected here. It's really that simple. So, the purpose of this episode is I want to talk about Nautilus. And I want to talk about something that's really pissing me off about what people are saying about Nautilus. I've touched on this on previous videos, but I want to talk about Nautilus specifically, right? I'm going to be referencing Kronos as well because they're under the hood, they're the exact same fucking keyboard. They really are. But I want to address a few things here because everybody is saying that Nautilus is a scaled down Kronos, and it's really not. Let me give you two words as to why Nautilus is not a scaled down Kronos, but it is in fact probably one of the biggest upgrades to Kronos or to any keyboard that I've ever seen. One, 40 banks of programs. 40. Let that sink in for a minute. 40 banks of programs. Do you know why? Because they did away with the row of buttons. That's the first thing. Second thing is the interface. You do not need the control surface of the Kronos. Stop looking at Nautilus like it's a lesser keyboard because it doesn't have the control surface of the Kronos. You don't fucking need it. If you learn how Nautilus operates by its screen, you'll see that the control surface is actually right there on the screen. You could double tap on any parameter and access a numeric keypad, a full QWERTY keyboard, if you're naming stuff and what have you, and you've got the calculator. Yeah, there's an onboard calculator. You can slide your finger up and down, left and right, to adjust parameters as well. You have direct access to that. Your finger literally acts as a value slider. You still have one on Nautilus, sure, but it's there. You can use your finger as a value slider if you wanted to. And the third thing, this is what really gets me that people are dismissing about Nautilus. User ARPs. Let me say it again for those in the back who can't hear me. User ARPs. User ARPs. Do I need to say it again? User ARPs. Why are people dismissing this? Do you understand that as complex and as detailed as Karma is, you can't create your own GEs? Nautilus is literally the difference between this is what I created from fucking scratch to this is what I edited on Kronos. Which do you think has more substance and significance? Right? You're not sitting with the fucking preset machine known as Karma. I don't give a fuck how detailed it is. And claiming that you fucking created anything. You just moved around a bunch of fucking controllers that changes what's already there. How's that a fucking creation? Karma to me is like a fucking sequencer without a record button. But you have access to 100,000 songs and different loops that you can combine, mix and match however you want. You didn't actually fucking create anything. You just edited shit and moved things around. How's that a downgrade to Kronos in any way, shape, or form? Nautilus gives you full control over all those aspects. Moreover, you've got scene control now with the dual ARPs. That's never been done before. So now you can have up to 4 scenes. You can choose different ARPs in those scenes and switch between them, which means I could have different variations of ARPs and literally have multiple combinations in a single slot because of those scenes. Where's that in Kronos? Oh, wait, you have 8 scenes in Karma. But again, did you create or did you edit? Hitting record in the sequencer in Kronos, playing out your drums, right? Laying down those tracks. That's one thing. Okay, fine. But did you create or did you edit in that case? You created. The second you bring Karma into the picture, if you use it as is and you modify a few fucking things here and there, you're not creating, you're editing. So how is Nautilus a downgrade? The control surface? We've got 8 knobs on Nautilus. No, it's not a full-blown control surface, but again, you don't need it. And if you need it that badly, guess what? Go buy yourself a nano control. Or use Nectar, what is it? The P0? That's USB class compliant. You can buy those for $100 these days, used. You can buy used Nectar control surface. Plug it into a Nautilus. There's your control surface by USB. Nautilus accepts class compliant USB devices. That's pretty fucking insane. So again, in what fucking way is Nautilus a scaled down Kronos? It isn't. The sound comparisons also make zero fucking sense to me. Why are you comparing sounds? They have the exact same 9 synth engines. And those synth engines are far easier to access on Nautilus because of the updated interface. So why are people comparing them? It makes no sense. The one caveat I have between these two keyboards is why is it that you can load Kronos programs, combination sequences, global settings, what have you, into Nautilus, but not vice versa. Korg even said Nautilus is a totally different thing. Why? For what fucking reason? They're the exact same keyboard and the same fucking hood. See, where Yamaha cripples things, right? Montage M, 128 voices, 128 elements. Whoa. You mean to tell me if you use all 128 elements on Montage, you hit one note, your polyphony's done. You can't hit another note. Let's put this another way. AWMX and Montage M claims to be 256 voices. Yamaha claims 400 voices for Montage. But AWMX is split. So you've got 128 voices if you're using your own samples, 128 voices out of the box. You've got 128 voices for FMX, but only 16 voices for AMX. Interesting. That's crippling. Korg is omitting features. The lack of an onboard GE editor in Kronos for the Karma, right? Not allowing Nautilus, PCGs and sequence files to be loaded into Kronos. Like, why are we separating them? Let's contrast that with Montage M. Montage M, on the other end of the spectrum, has full compatibility with MODX. And you can still load motif files into Montage M. You can do it with the original Montage too. You can load in the entirety of the Mode series, the MODX series, into Montage M as well, including MODX M. And you have full compatibility between Montage M and MODX M as well. So they're fully compatible. Why can't you do the same with Kronos and Nautilus? So it's compatible one way, but not the other? Make it make sense. Really? Make it make sense. So I'm referencing this because where the MODXM is truly a scaled down Montage M, Nautilus is anything but that. Nautilus with its user ARPs, Nautilus with a better user interface than Kronos, and a whopping 40 banks of programs. Oh, here's another kicker. When you're using drums on the Nautilus, there's a separate knob on those 8 knobs that you have on Nautilus. One of those knobs controls the snare. This is especially cool because this is unreal. This is especially cool because now, because you have direct access to the snare, this is a feature I would use all the time. Because when I'm creating combis, whether it's on my Triton or on my Oasis, I have to assign a controller for the snare sometimes, because sometimes I just want to kick and a hi-hat, or just to kick without the snare. So I have to assign a controller to the snare just to be able to mute it, whether it's a knob or whether it's a switch. Usually that's the compressor, right? Now, in Nautilus, I don't need to worry about any of that. The knob is there. So that's another advantage to Nautilus. Where you have to assign it in Kronos, it's right there on Nautilus. That's a very welcome addition. And then you've got the favorites buttons. I really wish there was more than 4. I really do. That's the one downside to Nautilus that I don't really like. I wish there were 8, 2 rows of 4, or even 12, 3 rows of 4. You don't have the bank buttons. You had all that empty space for buttons. They should have done, 8 or 12 assignable buttons, right? So that's the main thing. Like, and that's what I wanted to bring up, really, overall. Some of you guys really need to understand what you're talking about in so many different ways. Because you're looking at Nautilus like, oh, wait, doesn't have the control surface. And here's the other thing that really upsets me about Nautilus, too, on this side of things as well. There's no mid-size version. They discontinued the 73 key version. I don't know why. That makes zero sense to me. One of the best things about Nautilus is that they had a mid-size version, and now it's gone. After the AT, which, by the way, Nautilus never should have come out without Aftertouch in the first place. It never should have. Because a lack of Aftertouch implies low end. Korg, you just insulted your own workstation. You just insulted your own keyboard by calling it low end. It was anything but that. The user ARPs, the 40 banks of programs after a significant update, the better user interface over Kronos, the snare control knob, the user definable buttons, the fact that you can access everything right from within the screen in a way that you could never do as well or as quickly or as efficiently on the Kronos. How is that low end? That's pretty crazy. And then you omit Aftertouch. And then after the AT model, which stands for Aftertouch, fucking ludicrous. Why? Why? Like the limited edition Nautilus Gray, that's one thing. Okay, fine. You came out in a new color. Korg did that with Kronos like 5-6 times. From Kronos 2 to Kronos 2 SE, Kronos 2 Platinum, Kronos 2 titanium, which was basically the platinum with different side panels. Let's be real here, right? You had the Kronos 2LS, which was a lighter weight 88 note keypad. That didn't have Aftertouch. Why? Because they used a different keypad? Come on, Korg. Do you know what Aftertouch really is? I've taken apart enough keyboards to really know what Aftertouch really is. It's a small little circuit board controller with some, adjustable dials, if you will, and a strip. There's two strips, one for the black keys, one for the white keys. That's all it is. It's a little ribbon cable switch. Got a connector at the end, connects to the circuit board connects to the main board. That's all it is. That's all it is. There's no reason to omit Aftertouch on the keyboard because it can be turned off if you don't like it. That's the thing. You can turn it off. And it's not a very expensive add-on either. It really isn't. It's two super long ribbon cables. That's all it is. There's a thick piece of felt that sits on top, so it gets triggered. So when you put pressure on the keypad after playing it, you get Aftertouch. That's all it is. Nautilus never should have been omitted without Aftertouch. Ever. It never should have been released. So, what can I say? But this is what I wanted to talk about today. Stop dismissing Nautilus as a downgraded Kronos. It's not. Just because it doesn't have the control surface. Yes, the screen is smaller. I can understand that part. But you still have the same 6 outputs. You still have the same 2 audio inputs. You have MIDI in and out. You have USB, MIDI, you have a USB MIDI port. That also doubles as an audio interface, by the way. That's really cool, right? Audio MIDI from USB to your DAW. That's very cool. Me personally, I want both keyboards. I want both. I really do. I want both Kronos and Nautilus. I want Kronos because of the Oasis. Kronos is the best thing since the Oasis because it really is an updated Oasis, truly. So once I get both my Oasis keyboards fixed and I add Nautilus and Kronos to the mix, oof, forget it, game over. And knowing what Aftertouch is, there's no reason I wouldn't be able to get a 73 key Nautilus and upgrade it to Aftertouch. It's all there. It really is. It's all there. So I just have to find the ribbon controllers. I'm sorry, the ribbon cables and the controller board. That's all I need. I do that, I can take apart the key bed, put in the Aftertouch strips, connect the connectors from the ribbon cables from the strips to the controller board. Controller board goes to the main board. It's done. It's done. I don't really think Korg made any changes from or to the main board of Nautilus. I doubt any changes were made. The connector was probably there the entire time, just never occupied. And if you can do that with Nautilus, especially 73 key keyboard, who's to say you couldn't do that with Chrome or M50, which don't have Aftertouch? If I'm wrong, tell me. But I've taken these keyboards apart. I've taken enough of that. I've taken enough of these keyboards apart to know the basics, even without seeing them apart. So, yeah. Anyways, let's close out. I'm going to say it for those in the back. Stop dismissing Nautilus as a scaled down Kronos, because it's not. The updated interface, the 40 banks of programs, and the user ARPs. Let me say it again for those in the back. User ARPs. That's a far bigger deal than you might think. That to me is a dream come true. Because now I don't have to deal with the fucked up artificial limitations of karma. That Korg literally admitted, according to Stephen K., to omitting the onboard GE editor, which was part of the implementation of karma. So they gave Kronos user ARPs. That's fine. And of course, Nautilus wasn't licensed to. Stephen K was no longer licensed with Korg. So that's the other reason why Nautilus doesn't have karma, because they never commissioned Stephen K to put his platform on the Nautilus. If you ask me, that's kind of a good thing. Given my gripes with karma and its complexity, that's a really good thing. At least we got back the ability to create instead of edit. Let's put it that way. So one more time, just to make my point. User ARPs. That's it. I'm out. This is Aurelius Unhinged saying, don't settle.